It honestly does. Nobody learns a language just drop of a hat.
Learning language takes lifetimes sometimes. It takes years, especially when you're trying to do it past childhood. So it's not like you just flip a switch and you can now communicate. So it's a very long process, and props to these guys for going at it.
Absolutely. Jumping into game number 2, picks and bans now. We'll have to see what Liquid wants to change around to find success here. They are going to be on blue side this time, so that means they will have first pick priority to maybe grab themselves something high up on the tier list. Graves banned away by Dignitas, Liquid taking Vlad and Elise off the table.
Well, they don't want Keen to have Vladimir, and they do not want Piglet to have Vladimir against Oriana again, so I understand the logic there. I like seeing how the ban phase progresses throughout this, hoping that on this patch we can get more target bans, and that's exactly what we're seeing from Team Dignitas at least. The Graves, Camille bans were something they did on blue side, and they're just doing the same on red side with the Lulu ban being the tweak.
Lulu taken away, making sure that it doesn't get first pick this time. We have seen so many first picks on that champion over the past couple of weeks. They're probably saying, look, if this is up, Liquid's definitely taking it. Don't let that happen.
Yeah, especially don't let Team Liquid do a protect the double lift team composition. Smart ban, leaves Rumble up, which is what is picked, but it was going to be Lulu or Rumble regardless.
That locked in for Liquid. Dignitas now has their opportunity to respond. Plenty of strong champs still left on the table, and of course, with it being a new patch, we don't actually know what is the strongest right now in some cases. There's been enough changes to shake things up a little bit. You can tell just by the fact that Varus isn't in every single ban phase.
Exactly. So, I mean, I like moments like this in the competitive scene when teams get to have their own opinions on what is the best. And they haven't necessarily just come to these league-wide agreements. So much of it is on the analysts and the players to know what is best for them.
People clash opinions all the time, but this is one of the few chances right after a new patch where you get to see that clash of opinions actually demonstrate itself physically on Summoner's Rift as I believe this champion is best, you believe that champion is best. We're just going to pick them, and then that's going to prove who's actually right, as opposed to, oh, I believe I'm right because I have 200 games of evidence on this patch.
There we go.
Chaser and Someday picking up the Lee and the Malzahar first and foremost for this team.
Yeah, so not revealing too much of their overall plan right there. Malzahar, a good support to make sure you're shoving in, and that is one of the ways you can try and neutralize double lift as much as possible, is just shove him into turret, and then it's going to be hard for him to accumulate a large advantage.
Rainover picking up Rek'Sai on the side of Team Liquid.
Yeah.
Rek'Sai versus Lee. That's a pretty classic matchup.
It is. Rek'Sai has been a great pick against Lee Sin pretty much since he was released, because if Lee Sin tries to take the Q in on you, you need to burrow and right-click on him, and you're going to interrupt that second half of the damage application. With that being said, we have not seen very much Rek'Sai this split. He's been a seldom-picked champion, although arguably it has been Rainover's most successful champion in competitive play along with Olaf. So kind of going back to basics here for Team Liquid in this match.
Liquid also picking up the Karma for themselves as Dignitas thinking about that Nautilus if they want to lock that one in, and they do as their final pick of the first phase.
Yeah, that is not a pick that necessarily bullies Rumble, but if you do get ahead, the Nautilus and the Lee Sin can punish it very heavily. So Someday just kind of picking what the team needs and looking to be successful that way.
Both teams still needing mid laners, so we might see that heavy mid lane focus that we saw during the last second ban phase here again this time.
Yeah, so last game, it was quite interesting because you can see the Ahri ban from Team Dignitas. They actually opted not to ban another. The Cassiopeia and Victor bans were on the side of Team Liquid because we thought it was because they wanted to pick the Vladimir. So this is where things can kind of change up, and instead they marked that ban down to Laud's Caitlyn.
Taking the Caitlyn off the board, those traps, we saw how effective the siege was last time around, how much Dignitas could do once they got that advantage. Taking the Caitlyn off the board means that they're not able to create such a ridiculous wall to have to ram your face into over and over again to try to overcome those obstacles if they do fall behind. One ban left to go for Dig.
It almost
Ahri
looks like they're just going to let the timer... Nope.
Nope. All right, they actually picked one this time.
Again. Good. Thank goodness.
No whoops, we didn't mean to.
Yeah, banning out the Cinder, making sure Piglet doesn't have access to that type of lane bully. This time opting to heavily ban Piglet. Kind of the same way they did last time in the second ban phase.
One more for Liquid, though. Who's it going to be? Focusing on mid laners or AD carries, most likely. Unless they think that's a mid lane Malzahar. It will be Victor taken off the table.
Right, so that means 3 mid lane bans. Cassiopeia's still there, as far as I can tell. That means Keen would be a prospect to pick it. He's had some really good games on Cassiopeia, as has Piglet. So normally you want to save this for your last pick in a role, but I wonder if this is a situation where you would go Cassio.
Ooh, Varus being hovered even after the nerfs. I don't know if he's going to go lethality or normal or maybe something with the new Bork, but he's locked in.
Yeah, so the nerfs on Varus were basically around the cooldown on his Q, and then also if you proc Blight stacks with it, then it goes back to a more reasonable cooldown, but it had a very large impact as far as his win rate is concerned. We've still seen it in Europe, once with a Blade of the Ruined King Hurricane build, and once also with the lethality build that we're used to, which actually still won. So it's a nerfed version of the Varus that was permabanned, but still, these teams are willing to pick it.
Liquid locking in that Cassiopeia you were talking about for themselves. They know that Dignitas is going to have the last pick in this draft, so they can't wait and see if they can get some kind of a counter pick for it. If they want it, they got to go for it now, and that's the trigger they're going to pull. And
that's why I'm a little surprised that Keen didn't just pick the Cassiopeia himself. Mainly because Piglet was going to pick it anyway, and we cursed ourselves last game when we got the Caitlyn Ezra match. I'm thinking, man, Varus and Jhin, you're done for.
Get out of here,
now
but nope.
They're back.
It's just going to be another throwback to good old 7.4. Varus and Jhin, the lethality users, lethality abusers. Might not be using and abusing it this game. Like you already said, we'll have to see. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. One more pick left for Dignitas to round out this draft, and it's going to be that Orianna.
Yeah, and Keen's Orianna was so solid last game. Not a big surprise that he wants to go back to it this time. I prayed that Piglet puts like a little bit of defense anywhere in his build. He's going with the Dignitas, has been pretty customary for him in the mid lane, but he needs to have a better game in the mid lane if Team Liquid want a chance.
We can understand not taking the cleanse in this specific matchup, right? Because normally Cassiopeias like to take that, but up against a Malzahar, it does not work. Yeah. So you're going to be buying the QSS anyway because of Malzahar's ultimate. So cleanse is just a little bit redundant. I can understand that one.
Yep, you could also be bringing the Ghost, which was pretty common on Vladimir, can be common on Cassiopeia, but Piglet wanting that little bit of extra kill threat. It has been one of his specialties in mid lane. He's been able to pull off a number of solo kills, so that is what he's going for here.
Remember those fancy games from Piglet that you were talking about that you mentioned before, where Piglet has had a couple of good showings since moving to mid lane? Cassiopeia is one of the champs he can do that on.
Yeah, taking a final look at the team compositions, relatively matched aside from the tankiness from Someday in the top lane. Team Liquid will probably have a tank in Reignover's Rek'Sai, so team fights are still going to be relatively standard looking from this split in the LCS.
Return of Varus and Jhin, though. I can't believe we were only allowed to actually live that dream for one match.
Yeah, can we really call it a return?
Yeah,
the second game back in patch 7.5.
I wanted to have just a little bit more time away from them, but
they're back. It's fine.
You ever have one of those moments when you were a kid and your parents left to go to the store or something, you were like, cool, I'm all by the house by myself and I can turn the music up real loud and play video games all day?
Yeah.
And then your parents came back in 10 minutes because they forgot to pick something up? That's what I feel like right now. Varus and Jhin are back. My parents came home early and now I can't play my music real loud.
You're saying you don't have fun watching Varus and Jhin? That's the thing, right? We see so many League of Legends games. I always get excited by variety. It's not that I am necessarily opposed to Varus and Jhin as concepts, but they are more utility-based ADs. And I like seeing the players in this game, like Doublelift and Laud, having more expression when they play. So that's essentially why we're a little bit bummed out to see Varus and Jhin. But from a compositional and competitive standpoint, it makes sense. They have been successful for a lot of the year. I personally don't think the Varus is a good pick right now, but I understand why you play it.
Well, let's see if Laud can repeat the magic from EU earlier in the day, make the Varus work out. He is going to be starting off with the longsword and the 3 potions for himself. Looks like it's going to be the Doran start for Doublelift Jhin, though. We've kind of seen that go out of favor recently.
Yeah, on top of that, he has Warlords on Jhin instead of Deathfire Touch, which...
Both were changed.
Warlords was changed, But even with that, I just do not see a world in which Deathfire Touch is not the best mastery on Jhin. He has so many natural AD conversions as well as bonus AD just on attack damage. Like, it is just, I feel like, unquestionably the best mastery on him. So that's kind of adding to some of the, in my opinion, some of the more uncommon decisions that Team Liquid players have made. Piglet with his scaling ability, power blues, and no magic resist on his build. And Piglet now running into Chaser level 2.
Piglet, I don't know about this one, bud. That's first blood for Dignitas. Woo! What were you doing down there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I need to see that again. I think he was going for a ward or something, but then as he wanted to get the ward over the wall maybe, but Chaser had already beaten the spot. So much of this is Chaser's jungle path, right? He starts red buff and goes immediately for a gank. And then Piglet's trying to get the ward over top, and he just catches him beforehand. This is, while it looked really bad for Piglet, and that was my initial reaction, it's actually a crazy play by Chaser. So many junglers start Raptors, then go red, and then maybe would do a cheesy gank. But Chaser got up there so fast. That jungle path
That was cheese among cheese.
really caught Piglet off guard. It was a one camp gank, but Piglet ended up walking immediately into it. I would love to go back and watch Piglet's early laning phases and see if he has that warding pattern, and see if that was a response by Chaser by scouting that, because that's going to have huge implications there, giving him that first blood, and it's a huge payoff. And now he gets Adrian again while walking. They're going for double lift.
Now they're looking for double lift. Exhaust is down. Double trying to get himself away from this when the crabs are on him. The heal is popped. It's not going to be doing anything. Adrian gets himself out with double lift down. It's a 2-0 game for Dignitas. Keen not going to be caught out by Rainover today just yet, but Rainover still gets himself in there, finds the kill. But can he escape? Looks like it shouldn't be too hard with the minion wave shoved up. Liquid gets themselves on the board.
Yeah, I don't know how Keen got so low there, so credit to Piglet for prepping that gank to Rainover. Really do want to talk about Chaser, though. He had killed red buff, blue buff, and Gromp, and 2 champions. He almost had more kills than CS early on in the game, with just massively effective ganks. Watching the mid lane, remember there is still an Ignite on Piglet, so he just lands the Q and starts going all in while Lee Sin is bottom. So this is the reason why Piglet has the Ignite. He pushes Keen really low. Rainover then knows he still has Flash, and both summoners are down for Keen. Not to mention everyone is shown on the map, so tunnels in, and just pretty nice that Rainover is also able to flash the Q from the Orianna ball, allowing him to take the turret shots. Pretty good gank all around to kind of recover Team Liquid from what was a disastrous opening.
Not only recovering them in terms of just the gold comparison between the teams, but recovering them in momentum as well. Just the fact that they're not letting Dignitas run away with this game without getting themselves on the board for so long again has got to be good for at least team morale.
Yeah.
Rainover getting himself back into his own jungle now. Deciding to just back away from Chaser, who's got the Caulfield's Warhammer and the boots both picked up, not bothering with the jungle items, just going for that combat potential. Going to be very scary in these games.
Yeah, it's Chaser just continuing the fight champions strat right now. The worry, though, is Rainover did actually do a severe amount of counter jumping. He took the Raptors as well as the Krugs. So a lot of times when your jungler is doing these very low camp, high gank strategies, it can make them fall behind. It hasn't gotten there yet for Chaser, but with all these camps on cooldown, he's going to want to make something effective happen. Piglet does have Flash, but here's Chaser.
Chaser crept right past that ward. Miasma thrown down, plus the Flash used by Piglet means he gets himself away safely, but that was some good wall hugging from Chaser to keep out of vision.
Yeah, it definitely was, and it is good that he burned the Flash, allowing for a return gank. But if we're looking at jungle efficiency, the CS lies to you a little bit because Rainover has taken Raptors and Krugs, which is like a 15 CS camp, whereas Chaser is generally focused on single target camps. But the efficiency of this route, Rainover's doing a full top to bottom clear, and as Chaser had his counter jungling opportunity at the Raptors, the Raptor camp spawned basically right after he went for the gank. So Chaser's still walking around a jungle which doesn't have respawn camps yet, and Rainover actually ahead of him in experience.
Ahead in experience, but dead even in gold. 25. Not even the cost of a potion separates these two junglers right now in terms of economy. Someday farming up in the top side. Down a little bit in farm compared to Lorlo's Rumble, and we mentioned it earlier on, but these two are kind of the biggest difference in terms of team comp between the two sides right now. Rumble, the big damage threat, while you have the tank someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lorlo.
Yeah, and Lorlo taking a lot of poke. At level 6 on Rumble, he's feeling pretty comfortable in his ability to duel, but he has no wards. So Lorlo's got to be very careful about where he shoves up.
Lod going for the pickaxe first on Varus. So is that?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of what that's even indicative of.
I believe that could be part of the new build path for Blade of the Rune King. I haven't played.
Oh, that's a
Blade of the
good
Rune
point.
King.
Yeah, I actually have no idea what Blade of the Rune King builds out of now.
Get confirmation on that very quickly, but the longsword could be the Vamp Scepter. Very much for that build. Blade of the Rune King is a good item in this sense because it has so much of what you need in attack speed, attack damage, and life steal. So it's one of those generically good items at this point, but look out.
Oh, Lod in a generically bad situation, getting himself CC'd and bursted down. The Ignite's still ticking. He gets himself away with under 100 HP remaining. He's got to head back to base.
Yeah, I've been told the pickaxe doesn't build in to Blade, so egg is only partially on our faces because we didn't say it was for sure.
Right, we said
now,
it might be.
Now we're going to wonder exactly what that pickaxe is for.
2 daggers now added into the inventory. He's got all sorts of stuff hanging around there. But Chaser with his kick up, Dragon's Rage makes Lee Sin a much scarier proposition when he works his way into your lane, especially with the flash also available for him. Low on HP right now, so probably going to be healing after the Krug camp, but then it's going to be on him to find a play somewhere to make to continue to build the Dignitas lead. Game is currently looking very close. Game number 1, though, didn't start running away for a while. That first big play that Dignitas made obviously went well for them, but Liquid's keeping things a little bit closer this time around.
Yeah, and if I'm going to speculate a little bit more into Lod's build, with the double daggers, he's probably going, you'd imagine Blade of the Rune King. The pickaxe can be part of an Edge of Night. It's hitting a couple of different buckets, which is strange to me in this current game, but I'm looking forward to see where he goes with it.
Piglet thinking about setting a trap here in the river. Instead, just going to be finding an enemy control ward to clear out while Chaser tries to give away this blue buff over to Keen. Have to maintain that much more lane presence, lane pressure, general lane power with the extra mana and cooldowns. Special still not level 6 in the Malzahar. Once that shows up, especially once Lod has Chain of Corruption to go with it, that could be a very desirable gank target.
Yeah, and even though they were taken very low in that lane earlier, the fact that they were able to hold all of their summoner spells could give them a quick level 6 power spike when they have an exhaust, no ignite from Team Liquid. And even looking a little bit back to game 1, this is a substantially better start for Team Liquid. Just because they haven't essentially lost the game by 9 minutes at this point and still have a lot of damage that can scale up to double game.
Piercing arrow just barely not finding its way onto double lift down there as Chaser hangs out over the wall, wants to go for Piglet again if he can. Shockwave finds its mark. Chaser jumping into the fight, Petrifying Gaze, not going to be stunning up Keen. Heal gets popped, Rainover zoning Chaser away from this one. Chaser looks to find the flash into the Sonic Wave, but will not get it.
Yeah, Chaser goes for a big play by trying to flash past the burrowed Rainover to get an execute on a Piglet, but the sweet sidestep burns Chaser's flash for no effect. Props to Rainover for being positioned for that aggressive play, but now Piglet does need to be able to play some defense in this lane. At least he built some magic resist early on.
Rainover coming in, now trying to make his move with the flash, into the knockup, into the damage. Flash away from Keen. He's not going to be brought down this time.
Yeah, it may push him back to base. So Rainover definitely trying to help out Piglet right here. Going to be a battleground. Chaser coming back now. Chaser still has ultimate.
Special's also working his way up here through the river. This could turn into a bigger battle than just a 2v2 as Lorlo's going to be ulted by Someday. We're going to maybe finish this one off. The Riptide comes out but doesn't find its mark, and Lorlo walks away.
Yeah, they traded ultimates there, actually. And you could think that Someday was hoping to force Lorlo's flash that ultimate, but Lorlo stood his ground and knew he was relatively safe because he cleared enough distance running away from the depth charge.
Lod clears out a control ward. Chaser waits right behind him just in case there was anybody waiting to jump on him there. Would have been able to set up the trap. Those ultimates are online for both Lod and Xpecial. Double Lift also has Curtain Call now, but that's one of the problems with Karma is you don't feel that same impact with the level 6 as everybody else does. So Adrian feeling a little bit left out. Piglet gets himself a blue buff, though, to kind of answer what Keen was able to do earlier as Chaser brings Xpecial and Lod over towards the Drake. Not Infernal this time around, but it looks like it should still be a free pickup for these guys as Team Liquid's bot lane is backing.
Yeah, and part of that is shoving lane from Malzahar. Part of that is just Chaser having the right map position to go for the Cloud Drake. Always love it when teams are able to secure the Drake at essentially no cost. Delays the recall by 1 wave for Laudnex Special, and they get the Drake on top of it.
Wave being shoved up down there too. 98 CS to 83 there in the mid lane. 15 advantage on the side of Keen. Last game, he was able to build up a nice CS advantage for himself, largely because his opponent was dead an awful lot. This time around, Piglet only dead the first time, so not having that same disadvantage through there. Keeping up a little bit, has the tier, stacking that up. The defensive option that you talked about, you'd at least like to see a little bit of it. He has the Negatron Cloak in inventory, so looks like he's building towards an Abyssal Scepter with that one.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Abyssal Scepter, and why I always harp on mid laners who are pushed back in lane and don't build all magic, is you don't actually have to upgrade it. You just need the magic resist. The component is so efficient and it will still turn into a good late game item. So there we go. We got the magic resist on Piglet.
That's all we needed. Just some kind of resistance to Keen one-shotting him, or coming close to one-shotting him. Throws out the Miasma. Such a fantastic zoning tool on that spell with the ability to ground opponents from using any sort of a movement skill. This makes everybody really afraid to kind of come anywhere near it, thinking that they might put themselves in a spot where Cassio can land Fang into Fang into Fang, as Lorlo, now rotating himself closer towards mid lane, might be looking to make some kind of a dive here. There comes your multiple ultis, more damage coming through. Shockwave to get himself away. King going to be sidestepping away from that 4th shot now, as well as Someday looks to mount the counterattack, finds a little bit of damage onto Rainover, but nothing really. Dignitas repels the attack.
Yeah, and it's keeping the game pretty close. TL keeps going for minor plays, but this game really yet to break itself open. Good amounts of playmaking on Team Dignitas. It feels like they're almost just trying to bide their time before they make a move, but they do not have the lane advantage they had in the last game, so it's making it much more difficult to make an aggressive play.
Liquid actually up by just the slightest of gold margins, 213 minutes into this match. I believe last game at 14 minutes, Dignitas had a 3,000 or 4,000 gold lead, so much, much better performance this time around from Liquid, holding on much better. 87-51 in the jungle in terms of the farm. Again, a lot of that is Krugs, it's Raptors, it's just the natural differences between the way the camps count, but Rainover keeping himself relevant in the jungle, going for a more utility-based path with the Sightstone, whereas his opponent just goes for the Tracker's Knife to give himself the wards.
Yeah, Lee Sin very often goes Trackers for the ward jumping capabilities, and this Sightstone build is something we did see from Rek'Sai's last split, but not always with the Tiamat. Oftentimes you would see someone do a Tiamat into a very aggressive, like quick Cinderhulk rush to Titanic, or you'd see a Sightstone with a Cinderhulk and just making sure you're keeping your tankiness very early on. Rainover does a little bit of both. The component strat, one would say.
Some damage from the Inner Flame, but not really anything to write home about. King gonna be given over that blue buff yet again. Looking to push up that mid lane, utilize the power of the Orianna as well as he can. I already mentioned he had a great game number 1, so game number 2 just a little bit slower to start right now for him. Chaser coming mid again, looking for some kind of an opportunity onto Piglet, but after that first one, Piglet has been doing a good job of not allowing that to continue like it did in game 1.
Yeah, and the whole Team Liquid team has been doing that as well after they got caught by 2 fatal ganks on the first play. Oh, Piglet was on a
Piglet,
board!
oh, now he's in some trouble. The Shockwave into the Sonic Wave, and Keen waves bye-bye to Piglet, grabbing that 3rd kill of the game for Dignitas.
Love me some caster curses right there.
Every time.
As soon as we say Piglet was doing a good job avoiding the gank, he gets collapsed on by 3 people on Team Dignitas. Nice play there by Team Dignitas.
Now they got the opportunity to put some damage onto this mid lane tier 1 turret. First Blood still standing, so this could be a nice big gold buff for these guys if they can grab it. Gonna have to wait for that next wave to show up just a little bit longer. Here they come. Malzahar has to stop taking that aggro for a second. A couple more auto attacks will do it, but Lorlo moves into position in time to keep that turret standing.
Clutch save. Lorlo had burned his ultimate on the top lane wave earlier. Watching this one more time, though, Piglet was hoping the Keen would walk towards this area, but really just gets flashed on by a special into the full combo from everyone. An ambitious move by Piglet to wait there for a burst, and it turns out to be fatal.
Piglet now 0, 2, and 1 here on the Cassiopeia. Still stacking the tier, though. Still going to be getting stronger as the game goes on. Lorlo farming up top side with Rainover hanging around nearby in case Dignitas is looking for anything there, but I don't really think they're going to be. Not anytime soon. That kill onto Piglet, though, did put Dignitas slightly back into the gold lead. But in a game that is this close, anything could cause the scales to tilt dramatically.
Yeah, I agree with you, and the Drake fight's going to be really important. I also just have to touch on Laud's build right now. I feel like he's trying to set a record for the most gold you can spend without completing a major item. He has every component
He's doing well
in his inventory right now, and that actually hurts you because you get large efficiency spikes when you finish one of these items, and Infernal Drake is going to be up in 20 seconds, so this could end up hurting Team Dignitas if they're in a close fight.
80 carry garage sale, BF sword, recurve bow, pickaxe, longsword, and dagger.
What do you want? I got it.
We got everything, boys. You want one of these? We got one. Which one does he complete?
And they're all unique components. It's not like he has multiple BF swords or multiple pickaxes. He's got all 3 AD items and both attack speed items as far as components go. Soon he's going to build an agility cloak instead of boots, or I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, you sell the boots for an agility cloak without completing any items. You can achieve the 6-component dream. Infernal Drake live. So many people hanging around this area, though. A lot of wards being thrown down. You can tell both sides do not want to give this one away. Stepping over a trap. Deadly Flourish finds its way onto Laud, but there's no root accompanying it because of the fact that there was no damage beforehand. Rainover gets himself a little bit close. Special with no flash. Might be in some trouble here. Curtain Call opens up. First shot's going to be missing. The rest don't even matter that much. Laud's still going to be eating the fourth one, as Liquid finds a good pick that's going to lead into an even better Infernal.
Yeah, and that is Rainover being very heady about summer spell timers. X Special expended his flash to get a pick on mid lane. That is the only flash that was down on Team Dignitas, and it's immediately who Rainover goes in to get the XP on. So that buys him the Infernal Drake and is a great proactive play by TL.
Liquid getting that Drake for themselves means bonus AD and AP under their belts, so they're going to be that much stronger in future fights. Means gold leads might also be a little bit deceptive since they will have more effective combat stats than what is displayed through their money. As Chaser and Someday have now found the opportunity to turn one objective for their opponents into one for themselves. Grabbing that top lane.
Yeah, might be mashed in the bottom lane here. If Doublelift can get a few more shots into this turret, which will still be advantage. Going to be close though. If X Special walks up to him, Doublelift is going to have to back away. Uh-oh.
Ult comes out. Laud's there with the damage too. Doublelift can't quite do it. Sticks around too long, and that turret. Oh, what is that HP?
One
Hold
hit.
on. I gotta see.
35.
We know it's one hit. 35 HP. Heartbreaker.
That's greed as well from Doublelift right there. He really wanted it because it would have meant that he can roam to another lane right away. Now it calls that into question, as well as handing a kill over to Component Lord Laud's
Component Lord Laud.
Who has completed his zeal, by the way.
Another component.
We're working on it.
We're turning our smaller components into bigger components.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a Hurricane completed first.
But we don't know, because 20 minutes for the match, he has no item.
He has no fully completed item outside of Berserker Creeps.
Meanwhile, Doublelift with the Essence Reaver done first and foremost, going for the crit Jhin, as opposed to the lethality that was popular for so long. So even if we're seeing a Varus Jhin game again, it's not what we would usually expect from Varus Jhin.
Yeah, they've switched off to the different builds. Doublelift played a lot of Essence Reaver Jhin in his solo queue stint here in the spring split, likes the late game scaling of it. And the way this game is playing, it does look like it's going towards late game, fairly split lanes, although Team Liquid is going to have to make sure Team Dignitas can't snowball these turrets down. Hurricane!
Hurricane, all right, finally an item on the board. 20 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. Laud has completed his first big purchase. Have to see how well that helps him and the rest of Dignitas moving forward here. They do have a 2,500 gold lead, so feeling pretty good about that one. As Liquid pushes up here in the mid lane, Leandri's Torment on the Rumble is going to be a very scary proposition in these team fights.
Just an insane power spike anytime you have a Rumble in the game with Leandri's. Just bulldozes down pretty much any non-tanks at this stage in the game at level 13. But Infernal Drake went down about a minute ago, and there's not that many great ways for TL to start fights outside of fighting around objectives.
Fighting around objectives or finding a Rainover flash knockup into somebody, but when the flash is down from using it to get the last objective, you're kind of just in waiting mode for Rainover to be prepared to have another initiation like that. Dignitas working their way through the Liquid jungle on the bottom side. Seeing if they might be able to collapse on the Piglet here. ward over the wall is going to be spotted out. The tier 1 turret, now the target. Piglet, Adrian, and Rainover all here to make the defense. Doublelift and Lorlo also on the way. Lorlo has no TP, so he can't work his way into this fight instantly. He still has to walk, and Dignitas backs away.
Yeah, they do, but they're starting to get a pretty meaningful advantage in this game. So many wards on the map here, thanks to Rainover's Sightstone. It used to be the norm for junglers to have the Sightstone in certain metas, but it really has been out of meta with all the carry junglers we've seen in the early part of the split. Difficult adjustments sometimes when you realize the enemy jungler also has a Sightstone.
Yeah, plus the Tracker's Knife has kind of alleviated some of the Sightstone needs on junglers as well. A lot of them just opting to go for that instead, free up an extra item slot as Doublelift finds himself caught out. Shockwave going to be used. Keen not quite able to find the kill, but Someday is tracking him down with the ultimate. Rainover now going to be locked down next. The Drench line comes through. The chains of corruption lock him into place, but Xpecial's actually going to be falling. The damage over the wall from Team Liquid makes it a 1-for-2, but Dig still has the edge.
Yeah, Piglet rescued that fight hard. He was in the Raptor pit and got the stun onto Xpecial from over the wall. Doublelift completely caught out of position right there. Could have been a disaster, but it is rescued by Piglet.
Yeah, Piglet did all kinds of work right there for the team, making that not just be a complete loss for Liquid. They will not end up losing the tier 2 in mid lane because of it. Instead, they just end up going down a little bit further in the gold standings. Have to make sure that Doublelift isn't in a spot like that on the Jhin. One more look at it.
Run this one more time. TL was going for a pick, but then Doublelift just gets caught in between spots and has no flash. So Someday flanking around limited his moves. Here though, Piglet is very patient. Q into W into ult. So even if, and then the Rumble ultimate came down kind of unnecessarily. Even if Xpecial had wanted to flash out of that, he would have been stuck on top of the miasma. So well played turnaround there by Team Liquid after a rough start.
Infernal number 2 spawning in 45 seconds. So you see the teams start pinging and gravitating towards that Drake pit area. They know this is going to be happening. They know the game is still actually plenty close for either team to be able to fight for this if they want to. Teleports up on both top laners. Someday hanging around the top side, now starting to march himself down towards that bottom part of the map so he doesn't have to use the TP. As Laud, Xpecial, and Chaser move into this lane, get things shoving. They still have a tier 1 that they have to remove from play down here. And the same could be said for Liquid, because remember the Dignitas tier 1 in bottom lane is still standing with 30 HP.
Yeah, and that's a big move right there where Doublelift wasn't able to finish that. But if Team Dignitas gets this turret snowball, it just adds so much to the overall map pressure. Plus, you know, for as much fun we were making of Laud and his build path, I'm interested about where it took him, because I felt like early on in the split, Infinity Edge plus double Zeal items like a Hurricane as well as something like a Rapid Fire Cannon or a Phantom Dancer was actually really good on Varus. The kit has surprisingly good attack speed scaling, and especially when you're going to be able to head just the mid-fight power that build can bring is really huge. So I do now like Laud's build.
Dignitas onto Infernal Drake. Someday, the wall that stands between Dig and TL as Rainover's going to be jumped on first, but now the damage being returned to Someday. Curtain Call opens up. Chain of Corruption going to be fired off, not finding anybody. Nice shockwave. Liquid not finding any dead bodies of their opponents just yet, though. Chaser eating the Deadly Flourish as Dignitas backs themselves out, no casualties. Liquid now heading up north side towards the Baron pit. I don't think they're going to really be able to make anything too crazy happen here. A TP's coming in from Someday to cut them off. This might be a pretty big punish. Piglet walking right up into Someday's face. Ulti gets dropped. Someday is alone. Doublelift going to be caught out. The damage is down. Keen going on to a killing spree. Rainover going to be isolated in the back. Laud getting himself killed by Piglet. But the return kill is there over the wall. 3 dead on Team Liquid. Make it 4. We're going to be singing 5 here in a moment. Lorlo falls. And the ace for Dignitas.
Beautiful collapse there by Team Dignitas. Someday catches TL in a big choke point. I do have to question why TL even ran up towards the Baron pit. I mean, Team Dignitas almost instantly went for that collapse when TL could have just retreated down towards their mid lane. This, Captain Flowers, breaks the game wide open.
Oh yes, Dignitas, a team known for tragedies around Baron, now going to be finding a success around Baron. Now this game 7,000 gold separating the two teams. Baron up and running on everybody for Team Dignitas. The world is their oyster.
Yeah, and they keep catching Doublelift fairly early on in these fights, but just looking at the overall position, like TL is clearing out Vision of Baron Pit when they had no business doing so. Ulting Piglet in the start might have even been better to ult Doublelift because it would have gone through the whole team, but that doesn't matter. Laud gets the attack speed bonus at the very start of the fight by getting the Q passing through Doublelift, and then even though Piglet does get the kill on the backside, it just keeps TL in that choke point where they're going to be losing the fight against the Orianna, so it turns into a 4-for-1 at the very end of it, and that's tough luck for Rain over there.
Dignitas is having a heyday with this, though. They're doing really well in a game that people are looking at them and thinking that they should do really well in if you compare them on the standings. And this week, Dignitas is actually playing against Team Liquid, and they're playing against Envy. So they're playing against the 9th and 10th place teams. This should be a week that Dignitas is able to rack up those wins. And right now, they're looking like a team who's dead set on.
Exactly, and there's such a tight playoff race right now as Team Dignitas is going to try to make a power play down on the bottom side. Immortals is 6-8, Team Dignitas is 6-8, Echo Fox is 6-8, FlyQuest is 7-7, and they're all jockeying for those final playoff spots. So really important that Team Dignitas take care of business here.
Every single win matters, every single loss hurts. And Dignitas is looking to lay some hurt onto Liquid, pushing up this Baron Enchanted wave onto the bottom lane tier 3. The curtain call opens. Someday immediately goes into protection mode to block these shots from hitting anyone of value. 2 shots and it gets canceled. Doublelift not going to be doing anything else with that. They're all just protecting this cannon minion who goes plunk, plunk, plunk. Does a little bit at a time to that tier 3. The next wave now arriving. Wave clear is a tall order. Rainover looking to go in. Locke going to be caught out, getting himself away in time. Rainover still staying alive. Someday tanking for years and years. Adrian going to be hit by the Rainover that was kicked away by Chasers Lee Sin. The redemption comes in. Lorlo's going to be caught out. He goes down. And Dignitas now has their 5 versus 4 push opportunity breaking into the base.
Yeah, Team Liquid wants to have these fights at arm's reach, but it means it's really hard for them to finish off these kills. Unless Rainover is super far ahead and can be a large tank. So Team Dignitas is kind of slow and steady, moving to take that turret. Now they're in a bit of a tricky spot, especially Laud.
Ooh, Laud, I don't know what you're doing there. It's a pretty bad spot, but they're going to be trading him for Doublelift almost. Never mind, Rainover. Now with the knock-up onto multiple people, going to be Shockwave right back closer to Dignitas, barely getting himself out as well. Curtain Call's going to be up yet again. Special getting himself sniped down. One more shot finds its way onto Someday. Piglet going to be taken out. Chaser from over the wall. Unstoppable. Liquid 1 for 1 on the back end of that one. Now going to be looking for even more. Rainover coming back in. Keen trying to keep Someday safe. The shields are on him. How long are they going to be keeping him alive over the wall? Again, no. Chaser with the moves.
Oh, and he wants more!
Doublelift might be in some real trouble. Now the kick! Oh my goodness gracious! A double kill for the Dignitas jungler. Lorlo's now trying to make his happen. One by one they march. And one by one they fall. Lorlo dead. A killing spree for Someday.
I think I can get him. I think I can get him. I think I can get him as every Team Liquid member runs in one by one. And sometimes you just have to admit you can't. The play is dead. Let them go back to base. But Team Liquid want to continue this play because they think it's their way back in the game. Laud is caught in a position to kill him. They think, great, marksman down, we'll fight 4v4 now. But there's still a lot left on Team Dignitas. And they stay very low. Team Liquid thinks they're going to be getting these revives to come back into it. And right here, they're thinking, oh my god, they're so low. Curtain Call is zoning them off. But Someday turns to Piglet, and then Chaser is so fed this game, he just blows Piglet up. But now Rainover's got it. He's like, they're all low. We can get him. The trick is, the damage dealers of Team Liquid, Doublelift and Adrian, well, pretty much just Doublelift, are low and can't get into the fight. So actually, Rainover just gets hit by all the damage dealers of Team Dignitas that are still alive. And let's do it again. Doublelift. Oh crap. Chaser has ultimate up. I got too close without summoner spells. Wait a minute. Rumble's got this. Same problem. You have no follow-up. The Orianna shield is going to eat through all of the damage. And that was just a catastrophe for Team Liquid throughout that entire sequence.
I don't know whether to call Chaser's Lee Sin clean or dirty because he was so much of both in that fight. He just made things happen with the sonic waves over the wall and the kills. Dignitas 7-0-7 on their jungler. The man's a force of nature. as now they're piling down on this top lane tier 3. Rainover looking to jump in, immediately going to be ulted, no chance out. Lorlo the target next, Adrian now going to be aggro, the shockwave seals his fate. Chaser looking to find some kind of a kick, gets it onto Piglet, knocks him out of the way of the dredge line, but I don't even think it matters much now. Deadly Flourish sidestepped. Dignitas have found their way onto the second inhibitor of this game. They should take it down no problem, and they smoothly rotate over towards mid to make this a 3-inhib game. The turret goes, and the inhibitor follows. Yeah,
running cleanly through Team Liquid. They don't have the Baron buff, and Cassiopeia has an immense amount of wave clear, so maybe it's not going to end right now, but they're going to try.
Double lift Lorlo and Piglet having to make the stand for the next 10 seconds. Dignitas
still
will be able to rapidly take down these Nexus turrets. Number 1 drops. Curtain Call making a good defense for now, but it can't even bust Someday's shield. Looks like Diggs wanting to go ahead and call a retreat now that all of Team Liquid is up. They still might be able to make something happen here. Keen going to be caught out by the Deadly Flourish, but gets himself away in time. Rainover with a nice 3-man knock-up. This is Liquid's chance. Shut down over onto Keen. Rainover going to be soaking the aggro. Everybody else from Dignitas getting themselves away. Another Deadly Flourish onto Lod. Liquid wants more. Rainover looking for the knockup. If he can get it, flash into the knockup. There you go. Lod going to be taken low. Rainover 2. The damage from Adrian ultimately ends up securing the kill. Xpecial and Chaser now running all the way out as the Winions take down the second Nexus turret. Dignitas lose both carries, but now Team Liquid is staring down the barrel of an open Nexus.
Yeah, and that's the type of fight you do actually want Team Liquid to chase after, because they'd killed Keen, so there's no Orianna shields to fly through and prevent all of your finished attempts. The problem is, there's 3 open inhibitors and there's no Nexus turrets to kill them, so you actually need full-time base defenders. Team Liquid is throwing the remainder of their very small chip stack into the table right now. They're all in on this Baron, but it's got a low percentage chance of victory as Lorlo has just got to defend these minions. I mean, Someday could probably teleport in, and they just end the game. That's what's happening.
Looks like that's exactly what we're going to be seeing. The TP into the base. Chaser works his way in here as well. Everybody else is on the Baron. You've got Xpecial there to suicide and stop the backs. Chaser just flashes forward, kicks Lorlo away.
Yeah, and Malzahar is interrupting recalls on the other side.
There are way too many minions, and Dignitas take this game and close the series 2-0.
And less than an hour of total game time. This was a very dominating performance when all things are said and done by Team Dignitas. It was not without its mistakes on both sides. A lot of mistakes coming in from Team Liquid as yet another roster change has come through this week, but the focus should be on Team Dignitas because they're hot right now.
They continue to surge week after week, a team that everybody was doubting at the start of the split. We've already said it, but man, they are really putting the polish on towards the end.
Oh, absolutely, and the players that have been showing poorly or had inconsistencies seem to be looking a lot better. Chaser 8-0-8 on Lee Sin, and he's had a lot of pretty bad games so far this split, but his Lee Sin has always looked pretty good. Keen outclassed Piglet for most of this series. And then you actually even go down to the bottom lane where you have Laud, and in no way did it look like he was outclassed by Doublelift and Adrian. So a lot of that has to go with, travel and how used you are to your lane opponent, but you need to hand it to Team Dignitas in this series.
This team is not just a someday stream anymore, Jad. This is a coherent unit working as 5, everybody carrying their own weight and having phenomenal results because of it. Someday and Chaser, the front line for Dignitas, didn't die.
Yeah, 11-0 and 17, and I need to tweak what I said earlier. 1 hour and a few seconds of game time is what happened in this entire series.
Barely.
So, you mentioned the schedule for Team Dignitas coming in as well. One of the weaker schedules as far as what's remaining. They play Envy next. They could be looking at their second straight 2-0 week.
And how good does that feel going into the final week of LCS play, going into week number 9 next week, the last one before we actually hit those playoffs? They're going to be in a really good spot in terms of morale, in terms of where they're at, in terms of their focus. It's a recipe for success.
Exactly, and I'm actually getting pretty excited about the final week of LCS as well as the playoffs of LCS, because even though the match records in these games with TSM at 12-2 looking like they're running away with the league, when you look at the game score and the win percentage of these teams, this is, I ran the numbers, the second closest LCS split we have ever had as far as parity in the league. So I do feel like there is a lot of room for upsets in the playoffs. And so much of this is going to be about who goes into playoffs with the most momentum, the most amount of comfort on the patch, and then it's just going to go from there. And I'm excited.
Yeah, Dignitas, speaking of momentum, just feels like a wrecking ball right now. We'll have to see if they can keep that up. But for more on the Dig win right now, we're going to go ahead and check in.